visiting us. And so I guess we can go ahead and, we'll just do it this way. Greetings from Cincinnati, Ohio to Jason Longshore. Jason, good morning.
What's up, everybody?
We were going to go into midweek whip around and just blow through all of the matches and finish up with Atlanta United. But do you want to start with Atlanta United and go into midweek whip around? How do you want to play it since you're the visitor here?
Yeah, do I get to jump ahead of the line?
Yes, you do, as a matter of fact.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so you get, how long are you with us?
Special treatment.
Hey, I deserve a little special treatment. I'm on the road, and I'm going to be on the road pretty much nonstop for the next week, I think.
That is true, because
you're getting special treatment because you're in a town that has Skyline Chili, and you're somehow avoiding it. I'm proud of you.
It's not hard to avoid it. You just don't go anywhere near that place because it's gross.
I'll say it. Skyline Chili's mid.
It's beyond less than mid.
Wow.
Jason's gonna push you further beyond mid.
Yeah, it's way less than mid.
Okay, so how long do we have you, sir?
I don't know. 20 or so.
All right. So broadcast plans. Did I have it right? 6:30 pregame, then you and Mike, and then post match after.
Yeah, I was going through Atlanta soccer tonight because of all the travel right now. It's kind of on hiatus, and I recorded an episode this morning, and I'm like, yeah, it's 6:30 tonight. Then it's 12:30 on Saturday. Then it's 6 o'clock next Tuesday. I'm like, good grief, man! All the games and travel, and this is going to be ridiculous.
Yes,
but yeah, 6:30 tonight. That is correct.
Okay, so 6:30 tonight gets things kicked off. 7:40 for your pregame for your match day, and it is Kanji and Danny once again calling it for Apple TV. Yep. Who is the man in the middle for this particular matchup? Do you have that analysis yet?
I don't have it in front of me. I am a little behind on the referee analysis portion.
All right, well, hang on. Then I will buy time. Maddie,
you tell me and I'll react.
Okay, so Maddie, first question to you while I dig up the pro assignment.
Oh Lord, I would probably say. Well, also, hello, Jason. Haven't seen you since I've graduated.
I was about to say, like, congratulations on graduation and stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I think looking ahead to this double match week, looking and seeing what you saw on Monday in training, I asked this to Tyler. I'll ask it to you. What is the morale kind of around the training center? What was it like getting to see the players interact? What was the vibe in training this week?
Morale's good. I mean, training is really limited right now. You just don't have time to do anything. I mean, it's bad timing all the way around, but everybody's dealing with this. You are literally, so you played Saturday night, you had Sunday off. Monday was your starters are doing regen. So they're doing a warm up and then going to the gym. Your reserves and guys who didn't play on Saturday are getting a session in. Tuesday is a very light session before you travel. Play Wednesday, don't train Thursday. Friday's a walkthrough, very light. You play Saturday. So, I mean, like the actual training, there's just no time to actually train. That's the sad thing about it. In terms of vibes, I think they're where this team has always been. That's not an issue. And I think anybody saying that it is, you're not there. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I hate to be that cut and dried about it. Like, if you say that the vibes in the team are bad, you are 100% wrong, because that's not what's happening. You've been out there. You guys have seen it throughout the season. It's the same as it was. This team understands where they are right now. They don't like where they are right now. I think you saw that come out more in the game Saturday than we've seen at any other time. But the idea that the vibes inside are bad because of the results, no, they want to turn those results around. It's the right kind of reaction to it, in my opinion. Now, how you turn it around is not easy. And especially in weeks like this where you're playing a ton of games, you're probably going to have to rotate just because you're going to have to, because guys are going to hit a wall and you're not able to really make any dramatic changes to anything at the moment. This is where you are right now. You've got to fight through it. And it's down to those relationships that you built from day one of preseason being strong enough to handle the adversity you're dealing with right now.
Jarrett, before we go to your question, man in the middle is Ted Uncle. Your AR is Ryan Graves and Tyler Y. Rostick. Your fourth is John Freeman. Your VAR is Michael Radchuk. Your AVAR is Joshua Patlack. That's your crew for tonight.
Okay, Ted. All right.
So this is something we've talked about, Jason, is slowing things down for this team, and not saying that you take everything down to a snail's pace, but slowing things down in the build-up phase and not rushing everything where you're just playing so quickly that you're mistake prone. It's easy to talk about that. How do you execute something like that where you're not rushing, especially a game against Cincinnati, which we have screamed to the heavens, and whether or not people listen is between them and God, but you can't get sucked into a transition game with Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think it's two different things. You don't always need to slow down your build up. Sometimes you need to speed it up. Managing tempo is maybe the bigger topic here. It's easy to say and hard to do because you have to pick your spots to play quickly, where I think at times this team has been a little too slow to switch from left to right, right to left in buildup. It doesn't always have to be a direct ball. It can be a ball to the middle and then over. And you can vary the tempo and how you do that. Sometimes it's going to be slower to come back to the right side. If you're going right to left and you get to the middle and it's not there, you come back to the right quickly and go. It's about creating the matchups that you want. That's the most important thing. And how you get there, I don't want to say it's irrelevant because that's not true. It's less important. You want to create, whether it is a 1v1 that you want or creating a 2v1 numerical advantage. This is positional play. This is not anything beyond that. This is creating the matchups that you want. So the first part of your question, Jarrett, like you've got to manage tempo in the appropriate way for each situation. Sometimes that's playing quicker. Sometimes that's playing slower. If something's not on, don't rush it and try to make it happen there. That might be where you cycle it a little bit slower. But if you see that it's on, you got to go and you got to make the moves quicker. And that's something that I thought the decision-making was off on Saturday in a big way. And it felt like they rushed when they didn't need to rush and they slowed down when they needed to play faster. But your second point's the important one here against Cincinnati when you get into this matchup. The last few games against Cincinnati have turned into transition battles. That's not where Atlanta United wants to be. It's not where many teams want to be against Cincinnati. That's where they thrive. They're not looking for the same kind of control that an Atlanta United would, that other teams would. They're looking to make you uncomfortable by consistently getting you into a back and forth with no patience. You've got to fight against that. And I thought actually the last time Atlanta United was here last year, decision day, they did a very good job of managing that. The way you manage that is with the ball. And maybe in terms of going back to your first question, maybe in terms of tonight specifically, you might want to play a little slower at times because Cincinnati wants to play a little faster. So you want to make them have to do something that they're not necessarily comfortable with. Because what happens in those situations, at times, if they're disciplined enough, they'll fight against it. But what happens if you make them slow down, you make them not be able to affect you with their press, they get antsy. Then they start to get impatient. Then they start to get out of shape. Then they start to go chase things. And that makes it easier to play through. In my opinion, teams that are good on the ball, they like when you step up and press them because you can pass through that. Teams that aren't good on the ball don't want to get pressed because they'll turn it over. Teams that are good on the ball would rather you come out and defend higher up the field than just sit back and pack your own half. Because no matter how good you are in the ball, like crowded space is crowded space. And there's just not as many opportunities there. So if you're Atlanta, you want to manage tempo here. You want to look at, in a way, it's a game that I point to a lot last year coming out of the Leagues Cup break in Seattle. a game where I thought they did a great job of managing tempo and getting Seattle antsy, getting them to where they started to come out and chase a little bit. With Cincinnati, you want to do that. You want to create those openings, and then you want to exploit them. But the way you create the openings might be slowing things down at times to draw the opponent out to then play through.
For Cincinnati, looking at what Laurel Failer saw at practice, DeAndre Yedlin likely out because of the hip injury that he suffered against Orlando City. Alvis Powell nursing a hamstring injury that sidelined him. He got pulled in the 13th minute for the matchup against Columbus. Corey Baird not in training on Monday, wasn't seen on the fields Tuesday during the open portion. What would you anticipate that obviously, yes, you're still going to have Miazga and Miles there on the middle of that back line, but what would you anticipate Atlanta United offensively would be running at if there's no Yedlin, no Powell, no Baird?
It's a good question, and there's not really an easy answer to it. I mean, you'll see, I think, the back three with Murphy, Miazga, Robinson, as long as they're all ready to go, probably will stay in place. It was Valenzuela who came on for Powell last time. And if you have Valenzuela and Orejano as your two wing backs, that's maybe a little more offensively minded than you would like. But Cincinnati's played in that way before. They've played with two attack-minded wing backs. But if that's the case, you've got to punish them for that. You've got to try to get in behind. And if it's Valenzuela who starts for Powell in this one, you've got to try to get in behind him. You've got to make him uncomfortable from a defensive perspective. And he's going to be. You've got to exploit that, whether it's Thiago Almada drifting wider, whether it's Caleb Wiley getting more runs into the attacking portion of the field. The up top portion of it, I mean, Cincinnati's been pretty fluid in that position all season long. Bupenza's still out with the broken jaw. If Baird isn't able to go, I mean, you've got Sergio Santos, you've got Kevin Kelsey who's come in. He played, 23 minutes on the weekend, looking at it, replacing Baird. You have options, but it's the wing back position that's the interesting one, with Powell and Yedlin potentially not available. I think they're going to have to play a more attack-minded player there, and you've got to take advantage.
One more round with Jason. Maddie, kick us off.
Ooh, sorry. My mother sent me a little phone call. But anyway, we're back now.
Okay.
Everything's all good. I'm fine. That's why I was delayed.
Turn off the notifications.
Listen, guys, I'm sorry. It's the MacBook. It connects to my phones whenever I get calls and text. It comes through. I'm sorry.
You pulled a John, in other words. That's what you did, right?
You could just not use a MacBook.
Well, no, I just got a new MacBook.
Ooh.
I can't just do it. I know it was a cute little. I love my parents. Let me just say that. But anyway, I mean, with this double match week, I am talking about it. Is it possible that we could see, especially against Nashville and other teams, other players stepping up, like maybe Dax McCarty? You see him maybe get a start. That way, it's kind of leveling out, having that bigger veteran presence in the midfield, but also too with the way Dax is able to control himself and the way he's able to navigate on the field. Is it likely we might see him get that start, and also too maybe some other players getting more opportunities to really step up and create something different, especially with everything that's been going on?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to. I think just the amount of minutes that guys are going to have to play, it's not feasible. So, where that rotation happens, I thought Dax looked good in the second half. I thought he looked really good in the Open Cup match before that. So he's in a really good spot of form. You want to take advantage of that. Whether it's tonight, whether it's Saturday, you're looking at him playing more significant minutes here. I think Jay Fortune is another one, because those two central midfielders in Bartek Sliš and Tristan Muyamba, they've run a lot this season. They've got a lot of miles on their legs. So I don't know if you can ask them to go 180 minutes over these next two games. I think you're going to have to rotate some in that portion of the field. You've got Jamal Tiare back into the mix now, which helps you a little bit up top. It gives you some different possibilities there. It's a challenge at the moment. Stian Gregerson's injury, I don't have an update there. When we talked to Gonzalo Pineda Monday, the hope was that he would clear protocol and be able to factor in, but you're kind of in the total unknown in terms of how much he can factor in right now, because the idea was to play him about 60 minutes in the Open Cup match, 45 and NUC, and 60 probably would have been the line. Well, then he had the concussion early. So if he was 45 to 60 fit last Tuesday, and then he lost some time training, you're able to train while you're in concussion protocol, but some of it is monitoring, and you're not able to fully train. And, you don't really know, like, did he lose fitness? So is he back to 45 max? Is he back to 30 max? You don't know. And you're going to have to figure that out a little bit on the fly. If he's going to be able to factor in tonight or on Saturday, or is it one or the other, or is it a little bit in both? These are the things. Like, this is just where you're at. So I think big picture, you're going to need pretty much everybody that is healthy at the moment to play a role over these next two games. And then when you look ahead to Charleston next Tuesday, it's kind of who's available. And also, it wouldn't be a shock to see guys like Edwards, guys like Gordon, maybe other guys from the twos get moments in those games, because I think you're going to have to. I just, again, going back to that week of, you're not going to have time to really train. You're going to play Saturday. You're going to get back Saturday night. You're going to have Sunday off. You're going to train Monday and travel. Then you're back to LAFC on the weekend here at home. You're probably going to need to keep guys back at home next week to train at home, while some of the guys and some guys from the second team go to Charleston and try to advance in the Open Cup. That's just where you're at right now. It is a brutal part of the schedule.
Do you think we could see a player like Javier Armas and maybe Noble Okello really step up and possibly make that jump?
For the Open Cup game, yeah. I think everybody that's on a pro contract with the twos would be in consideration for that Open Cup match, just because of workload for the first team guys over these next few games. I think it's all hands on deck right now amongst the guys on professional contracts at the club.
Jarrett, go for it.
How do you manage the physicality of this game? And in the sense that it's like, one of the things that stuck out to me last year when you played DC and against a team that you can get into transition moments with.
When you played Cincinnati?
Well, both times. Both teams,
okay,
because of what Atlanta does on the counter press. I'm getting there. It's just taking me a minute.
Okay.
How important is it for whoever starts on the wings up top to provide that counter pressure against a team that wants to be able to go quickly in that transition game, to slow it down and to make them take a beat so you can kind of reset yourself physically and mentally and positionally?
Yeah, it's important. Cincinnati played on the weekend in Columbus. They put a lot into that game. They're not going to be at full fitness either here, and we already talked about their injuries. So what they look like tonight will not be their normal selves as well. I think, going back to the first question that you asked, Jarrett, about the tempo, I think one way you manage all of it is by managing tempo, picking your spots to go. You don't want to get into a track meet on short rest. And I don't think Cincinnati necessarily does either. They're the ones out of the pressing direct transition teams and all different shades of that group. They're the ones that can play a little bit more. I think for Atlanta, you're going to have to manage how much you can counter press, because you won't be at 100% in terms of your reserves of energy. But more importantly, you've got to prevent them finding Luciano Acosta in dangerous spots. When he drifts wide to go hide and get away from the ball and away from the play, you got to have somebody who is aware of him or with him at all times. So it's a little bit of a 50-50. Like, you've got to pick your spots in when to step up and counter press, knowing that they're going to launch. But you've also got to be careful about getting overextended on short rest with tired legs and letting Luciano Acosta have space to hurt you.
What else is on your mind?
Am I too cynical?
Jarrett has another one.
Am I too cynical? No, I do.
Yeah.
Am I too cynical in, hey, we get in some of those moments. If it's not a full transition, I'm fouling the ever-loving hell out of a couple people
100%.
just to bring – and I'm fouling them, and then I'm standing over them and the ball.
Yeah.
Not to taunt them, but to not let them take the free kick quickly. And I'm absolutely murdering the pace of this game if I have to.
It is
I need cynicism in moments.
In moments, yeah. And look, that's a hard switch to flip because this team isn't a cynical team. I mean, you can go back to the 2019 team with Frank DeBoer where he wanted them to be a little more cynical at times. The Salt Lake game is the one I always remember in that moment. He wanted them to foul to prevent that break. Yeah. This is a team that doesn't like to foul. They like to play. They like to win the ball back and go. They don't like to commit those cynical fouls. And at times they need to. And in a game like this one on the road, short rest, you need to find something in it. You need to find a result. You need to find some momentum. Yeah, if you got to do that, you got to do that. And that's where, going back to Maddie's question about a guy like Dax and me throwing Jay Fortune into that mix, those are two guys who I don't think have that issue. Like if they need to commit a foul, if they need to upend Acosta, if they need to put him on the ground a couple times, if they need to try to get in his head a little bit, they will. And that might be what's needed here, just because you're going to have moments where the tired legs will come into play. And it will for Cincinnati too. Don't get me wrong. They're going to have issues with this as well. And sometimes teams that play in that manner have a bigger issue with it. You've got to control the play. And sometimes you control the play not with the ball, but by fouling in moments where Cincinnati can get out on the break and hurt you.
I know we've kept you longer than we anticipated. It's the way it always goes.
Okay.
What else is on your mind before we go?
Nothing much. Lunch is starting to get on my mind, to be honest. And it will not be Skyline Chili. That is a promise. Ooh. That is most definitely a spoiler. That is not happening. And in just this week of just chaos. I mean, just to give you all a glimpse of what it's like. We traveled yesterday, got here today, be back home probably. No, it's a short flight. So, I mean, it just depends on how quick you get to the airport afterwards and getting in the air. And I don't think we'll have any issues with delays, fingers crossed, although there is some weather issues in the area right now. So hopefully that won't be an issue tonight. Get home, probably guys will get in their beds between 1 and 2 a.m., maybe later. And then it's tomorrow. It's Friday. Travel to Nashville on Friday, an even shorter trip. But an early game on Saturday, those are always weird. They just change your body clock. It's weird when you're normal to play in a 7:30 game to have a 2:00 kick. It throws everybody off. I think it throws visiting teams off even more because you're not even at home trying to adjust to that new routine. You're on the road in a hotel trying to get up earlier and figure out what your lunch normally would be a breakfast then. And some people can't eat what they'd eat for lunch for breakfast. And it's just all that kind of stuff. And I know people are going to be like, they're pro athletes and this shouldn't be an issue. It is an issue. They're human beings. We're all human beings dealing with all this. And then you turn around, you got to go to Charleston. Mm-hmm. And you're in the round of 16 in the Open Cup. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of MLS teams left in this tournament.
Nope.
So it's a tough balance, Jarrett, because one, you're going to be tired no matter what. Like, there's no way to avoid it. You're going to be tired going into that game. And then you got to look ahead at LAFC and then a midweek trip to Miami and then a home game against Charlotte. Like, it's not like it gets easier the next week. No. So it's a brutal portion of the schedule. Other teams are going to be dealing with these things too. And it is a spot where you've got to be mentally strong. You've got to manage tempo, I think, more than ever before. Fast teams are going to have to play a little bit slower. Transition teams are going to have to be less transitional. Teams that sit back and defend are probably the ones that aren't going to have as much disruption during this time frame. So it will be tough. The games will look a little bit different. I think tonight, all around the league, the games are going to look a little more disjointed, a little more jagged, and you're just going to see those effects. And for Atlanta tonight, you've got to find ways to control momentum. You've got to keep Cincinnati frustrated, and you've got to find some things that you can build on. I think a result tonight, I mean, a result is, it's not a must, but it's close. It's very close. And more than anything, you've got to have some positive play, because the DC game was the frustrating one in that it was so different than the previous games for Atlanta United, where you have either been in a 50-50 with your opponent or you've outplayed your opponent and the results haven't gone your way. Against DC, you did not play well and you did not play like yourselves. And it looked like a team that was feeling pressure. And you've got to push that away and play your game tonight, a modified version, because you don't want to get in track meets. You're going to have to rotate guys at some portion between these next two games. You've got to be yourselves, though. And to me, that's controlling the game with the ball. And if that means you are able to get to where you want to get and get the matchups you want to get quickly, you got to take it and you've got to win them. If that means slowing the game down, controlling the game, making Cincinnati come chase you, then you've got to do that to then find those matchups that you want. But you've got to control the game with the ball. You've got to be better with the ball. And you've got to get some goals going in the right direction for you. And that's been the challenge. Against DC, you didn't play well and you found two. I mean, that's the crazy thing, is you actually find two when you don't play well. You've got to find a way to play well and get those goals and just find as much control in this match as you can.
All right. Broadcast plans, 6:30 pregame, 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. And then you and Mike take over. 7:40 kick, and then post-match after with all of you dudes, Abe and Garrett and Jason.
Won't be all of us dudes, because we got to get on a plane.
So some of you early, but not all of you for the full time. How about that?
Yeah, because we got a plane to catch to get home to then start the whole process again ahead of Nashville.
Exactly. All right, partner. Be good. Be safe. We'll see you soon.
Adios.
All right. That's Jason. He is out the door.